Devils Tuesday. This is the Woo Report. The Woo Report, episode 449. Back to you live from the Primetime Radio studios inside the bunker in an undisclosed location in beautiful New Jersey. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. You requested it. I'm going to bring it. And also, we got a special guest tonight. The one and only Chico Resch from Devils Hockey Network. Fan favorite, good friend of the podcast. As we're going to be talking about Valiquette's embarrassing commentary. Well, at least in my opinion only. Or maybe it could be your opinion. Talking Instagram hockey as well as everyone's filing in on the YouTube Live. See, Max is there, Ramona, the Insane Pollock, Corbin. Everyone filing in right now. As we're going to be talking about Steve Valiquette's commentary about Jack Hughes, which really took a life of its own when a reporter asked Jack Hughes last night after the Devils beat the Rangers. Again, I want to say this again. The New Jersey Devils beat the New York Rangers in Madison Square Garden 5-1 in a dominant victory over the Blue Shirts. And after the game, let's just start from the beginning. After the game on MSG Networks, Steve Valiquette, who used to play for the New York Rangers, bounced around in the minor leagues, does commentary for Madison Square Garden Networks, had some things to say about Jack Hughes and the way he, quote-unquote, embarrassed Igor Shesterkin. He made some commentary. John Giannone asked him some questions afterwards to kind of further find out what the heck is he talking about. And when Jack Hughes in the locker room, who, by the way, had a multi-point night, 2 goals, I believe an assist, was asked that question about a Rangers commentator, and what the Rangers commentator said, Jack Hughes was like, what does that mean? Maybe not in exact words, but what does that mean? And I'm still trying to figure out, what the heck is he talking about? Steve Valiquette, former New York Ranger. And we're going to have a little fun here because we're going to have Chico Resch in about 15 minutes. As I do this monologue, don't want to embarrass Chico because my opinions are all over the place on this one. We're going to have a little fun with it because, heck, this is what we do here on the Woo Report, is have fun. This is why we watch Devils hockey, because it is fun. But my goodness, where did this come from? And in Steve's defense, I think he meant, I don't know, actually I don't really know what he meant, but I'm trying here. I'm really trying here as I'm seeing some of the comments here. But I think he meant well, being like more from the Rangers side of things, that you cannot allow Jack Hughes to be alone against your goaltender one-on-one and allow him to do the things he needs to do. And I think that's what he meant. But he also was, well, we talk about beefalytics on this podcast, but he was also talking about, like, Colton Orr, that he would have been tapping his stick on the boards and on the ice, trying to intimidate a young Jack Hughes if Jack Hughes played 15 years ago. But I got news for Steve Valiquette. The game has changed quite a bit since you played. But let's go by what he said. I'm gonna read some of the quotes from last night. You know, in the New York Post, the headline is Steve Valiquette blasts Devils' blatant disrespect of Igor Shesterkin, Rangers' lack of response. That was the headline. Like, I can't believe this is news. It's only news, in my opinion, is because a reporter asked Jack Hughes that exact question. Actually, I want to know who the reporter was that asked that. Because, number one, when you ask that kind of question in the locker room, do you think Jack Hughes has any idea what Steve Valiquette is saying while he's getting changed in the locker room after a 5-1 victory in Madison Square Garden? Do you think Jack Hughes is going to get off the ice after a great game, scored a couple goals, get a high five from the teammate, the coach is speaking, Sheldon Keefe, and then do you think Jack Hughes has time in the locker room to actually watch Steve Valiquette on MSG, I don't know, plus MSG or MSG 2 plus or MSG or the Gotham Sports app? Do you think Jack Hughes has the time to know what's going on of some random Ranger commentator that only played, 30 games in the NHL? No, I'm sorry. Jack Hughes has better things to do. But the question was asked. And Jack Hughes, you know Jack Hughes, when he does interviews, he can be sometimes short. He can sometimes be a little smirky. Sometimes he can be a little funny. But Jack Hughes is a focused NHL all-star wanting to win. And he's in the locker room answering questions. And he's asked about this Ranger commentator. And then he wanted to ask, well, what did he say? And basically, without saying it, Jack Hughes was kind of confused. And he's like, well, what does that mean? Basically, want to say this makes no sense whatsoever. On the play that he used his backhand, but anyway, let's go back to the article. There's some quotes here. But this is what Valiquette said after the game, where he was just not happy what he saw from Jack Hughes and from the New York Rangers and their response. He says, I don't like that because Hughes set out to embarrass Shesterkin, thereby slowing down going to one hand. That the attempt was more Instagram hockey than intense hockey. And then he proceeded to say, that should send a shockwave to everybody on the bench. Because I know in my day, Colton Orr would have been hanging over the bench, banging his stick, saying, I'm coming after you because you tried to embarrass us, the analyst explained. And that's blatant disrespect. And I'm sort of surprised I didn't see a response from the team that way. I think the Rangers should be upset about that. And, of course, Hughes said, I don't know even what that means. Like, what does that mean? And Valiquette talked about back in his day that was going to happen. That's what Colton Orr was going to do. But let me just kind of spin it here this way. Back in the day, your teammate Sean Avery was an embarrassment to Martin Brodeur when he was pulling his shenanigans in the NHL playoffs, which what came out of it was the Avery rule. Acting like a clown in front of the crease, but disguising it and spinning it like it was screening the goaltender. That was an embarrassment. Calling the Devils netminder, who is, by the way, a Hall of Famer, Fatso, like Fatso forgot to shake my hand. Well, you didn't even earn the respect because Sean Avery was an embarrassment to Martin Brodeur. That's what I call embarrassment. What Jack Hughes was doing was he was using his speed, he was using his skill to go to the net and try to get the puck behind Igor Shesterkin. That is not embarrassment. That's what we call hockey. This is why the league is promoting Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes is a first-round, first overall NHL All-Star, possibly the face of the league, face of EA Sports, the three Hughes brothers, with Quinn, Luke, and Jack. And you call that embarrassment, skill? And then on top of that, you're asking the goons, the goon mentality, guys on the Rangers, to basically take Jack's head off for what? Playing hockey and trying to win a game? You've got to be kidding me. Steve Valiquette's comments make no sense whatsoever. I'm trying to make sense of it, but I've always said here on the podcast, you can't rationalize the irrational, because Steve Valiquette was, I don't know, a Rangers homer. Maybe they're not selling enough Gotham Sports app right now that he has to be some sort of shock jock on MSG Networks to get some attention to, hey, we got this great content exclusively on this MSG Networks and Gotham Sports app so we can sell subscriptions so we can make a lot of money. Maybe, I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of the comments here. But I do kind of agree, and let's be fair to Steve Valiquette, okay? He's not a bad guy. He has his own opinions. We have our own opinions. But, boy, if you're going to make an opinion like that, you better back it up. So I'm trying to, all day long, I've been trying to put myself in Steve Valiquette's shoes, or skates, if you want to say that, since it's a hockey podcast. And the only thing I can think of is the kind of stuff he was saying to the audience. That stuff should be said in the locker room, not the general public and audience that are watching this programming. Even John Giannone was just a little confused what he was talking about. Like, honestly, I have no idea what he was talking about. I really had no idea what he was talking about, but I'm trying to rationalize right now. It's almost like as if he was on the Rangers right now, and he's like, no, you can't let that guy through. He's cherry-picking. He's going one-on-one with Igor. Give him some help. Knock him on his butt. Do something. And maybe his way of explaining it kind of got miscommunicated, in fairness to him, that maybe they should have put Jack on his butt and not allow him to roam free and take liberty and have a one-on-one high-danger chance against Igor Shesterkin. Mike Rossi says his opinion is irrelevant and short as his career. That's pretty funny, but again, I hadn't heard his name in years, but this is the kind of programming that MSG Networks is putting out, and I'm kind of like, honestly, and this is why we have Chico Resch coming on, because Chico and I talked a little bit this afternoon, because he caught me at the right time, because the entire time, my afternoon, we're all like sports fans, we're all reading up during the day, what's going on X, what's going on social media, all the buzz talk about Steve Valiquette, what he said, and then you see all the short videos, and everyone has to put their 2 cents in. And as you know, Devils fans especially, and the internet, people are pretty funny, and they're putting out these like small videos, whatever. And I was all consumed in that, and then talked to Chico. which is why we have Chico Resch here tonight, good friend of the podcast, coming up in a few minutes, and trying to make sense of this all. And you know what? I like to know, because Jack Hughes did nothing wrong here. Jack Hughes was doing what he's paid to do. That $8 million, 8-year, $64 million year contract. That's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to score. He's not trying to embarrass Igor Shesterkin. The Rangers embarrassed themselves. They didn't show up. They didn't have life. Heck, no quit in New York. The Ranger fans quit on the team because the team quit on themselves. That's what's happened. That's what you should be saying on this regional sports network called Madison Square Garden Networks. That's what you should be saying. But to blame Jack Hughes for showboating, you're talking about a Lady Bing nominee and Jack Hughes is showboating? You don't think Wayne Gretzky ever pulled that move back in the 1980s? You don't think anybody else has pulled that move? Matter of fact, Jack Hughes is not really the greatest shooter, and Shesterkin is a great goaltender. He made the stop. Jack Hughes wasn't trying to show off. Jack Hughes is focused on winning the game. And winning the game, they did. Your New Jersey Devils, 5-1 in Madison Square Garden. The Rangers fans had nothing to cheer about last night. It was a complete dominant performance with a couple things that the Devils can work on. Brett Pesce blocking shots, Siegenthaler blocking shots, the whole team blocking shots. Devils got outshot, but they didn't get outclassed. And again, this is why we have this podcast, because we can express our opinions, but if you're going to do it and you want to go unleashed and unfiltered, you better back it up. You better back it up. And that's what's so great about our Devils community. The Devils fans showed up at Madison Square Garden. You know it. I know it. And it was a wonderful time, whether you are at home or at the game. Boy, do I want to do a garden invasion soon with all of you. Maybe one day. But now, without further ado, a good friend of the podcast, his name is Chico Resch. Chico, how are you tonight? I'm fired up.
I can tell you're fired up. I'm sure the fans listening to you are fired up. Devils were fired up last night, and the Devils fans really got a treat, Sam. I could say I almost felt sorry for the Ranger fans, only because when the Rangers beat us, I don't know if it was last year, they won 4 straight last year, but we're not the same team. But when they were winning in our building, with 10 minutes to go, they'd start chanting, "Let's go Rangers." And I get it. That's half the fun of being a fan. But last night, it was the Devils fans' turn. And with about 5-6 minutes to go, I looked around the building. I don't know if there was a third of the building left, and most of them were Devils fans. So, yeah, Sam, it was a great night for the Devils fans, and just nothing for the Rangers, I just heard you say. They had nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Now, how was the crowd last night? All the Devils. Do you have a percentage in mind what the balance was?
Devils fans they're not as outgoingly, I don't want to say outgoingly demonstrative. They don't always wear the big jersey. They were, it's the Garden, and I don't know how friendly it is, but when they started chanting "Let's go Devils," and we score a minute and 32 in or something, it was. I think it was just. I think the first part of it was kind of smugness. Yeah, I'm a Devils fan. Yeah, we're good. You can see. And we're a really good team, and it's not just because of we're lucky or we've got, you can count it, 7 new players on the team from last year. So let's not compare last year to this year. I don't want to hear anybody ever saying that because it's just not the same team. But anyway, the Devils fans, because we're early in the season, 25 games or whatever, but I could just tell the Devil fans are going, well, we're pretty good, and you guys are tanking. I mean, what's that? They've lost 5 out of 6, and Sam, they had nothing, no response, and it wasn't. It almost wasn't as an enjoyable a game for me because there was no drama. Really, there was no excitement. It was just like the Devils were playing Utica. They're a minor league team in an exhibition game almost. It was, but you know, it was what it was, and it was a great night for Devils and their fans.
Now, Chico, do you know Steve Valiquette at all?
I do.
You do? What
Yes.
do you make of his comments? I mean, I have my opinions. You know, I try to put myself in his shoes, what he's trying to convey, but what are your thoughts? You know?
Well, I think, Sam, you know, and the fans know, he could see that the Rangers had no response. I said on the air with Matty Loughlin, when Dawson Mercer scored his second goal, I mean, he cut across the high slot. A guy was on him. He shot it back, and Shesterkin was coming from the right post across. The puck went right through his legs. He almost stumbled and fell. I said to Matty, Matty, they got to pull him. That guy has no confidence. He had no flow to his game. And then, you know, and I'm not knocking him. He's a good goalie. I don't say he's elite. If he wasn't playing in New York, if he was playing in, say, St. Louis or somewhere else, he wouldn't be getting this attention, but that's fine. But, Sammy, when he was even going to the bench in between breaks, he was shuffling with his shoulders drooping. I would have went, all right, I'm going to at least look like I'm fired up and I'm back in it. So I think Steve Valiquette saw, I do not know why the Rangers didn't change goalies after 2. You know, Jonathan Quick had been playing real well. No, he's not going to be the long-term goalie, but for that night, last night, when it's a big game and you're trying to reestablish your team, and they don't care who the goalie is for one night, if he could have got him going, but they didn't do that. Then they didn't replace him later on, and there was, as he even said, there was no Colton Orr, there was no Matt Remke, there was no physical element of them trying to do anything. They really, Sam, did nothing except sagged farther and farther down. And yeah, they made some moves and tried some things. But I think Jack was just frustrated because you can't criticize the Ranger players too hard if you're working for MSG as a Ranger announcer. You can't criticize the coaches too much if you're working for Madison Square Garden. So all he had left was bringing that up about Jack, and like you guys saw Jack's comment, he said, what are they talking about? And Jack's not he's going to give it to you straight. He's thinking, well, what are they talking about? I try to move there. Let me ask you this, Sammy, and all you listeners. Let's say he had gone down, right? He's a pretty good shooter. And he'd gone, boom, shot it right through Shesterkin's legs, made it look easy. Wouldn't that have been more embarrassing than at least if he had done this move and got a really fancy goal? At least Shesterkin could say, hey, that was a good move. But I just think Jack was so frustrated, like any Ranger person was, that nothing was being done. It was like they were just taking it. Just give us more. I mean, Devils could have been up 4-0, right? That goal could have went in. Bratt's goal could have went in. Mercer hit a post later on. No, honestly, I would say, Sam, the Ranger fans are lucky it wasn't like an 8-3 game. Maybe they could have scored 2, but the Devils could have easily scored another 3 or 4 with the chances they had. So, The Rangers, they got their problems. I know it started with what happened in the summer with their GM talking about trading this guy and really getting uh, um, letting the guy go to the Sharks, who was a very important player, uh, and then talked about, well, they would never trade Kreider. Let me say this, Sam. I know I'm rolling, but I'd say to the fans, okay, read the blogs, but don't believe them. Like, first of all, who is going to trade for Jacob Trouba and Chris Kreider at this time of the season and give the Rangers either a really good young player or a really good draft pick? If the Rangers get draft picks for those guys, what are they saying? We have no chance this year, so we're already in the rebuild. No, I don't think somebody let it out of the bag what Chris Drury was doing, and he I don't know if he maybe didn't handle it right, but that should have never become public. When we won the Cup in 79, 80, and I talked to a couple ex-Islanders, Sam, we knew. Al Arbor, everybody told us, they said, basically, this is it. And I think this is it for the Rangers. If they can get it together, they have one more shot. The window's just open for one more Stanley Cup run. But to do that, you got to be healthy in your room. You got to think, the GM really thinks I can do it. But if he's thinking, I wish I could trade that guy, or if the players are thinking, he's thinking, I wish I could trade that guy or this guy, well, then it's going to be a disruptive situation. So I'm just surprised that they didn't keep it in-house and they said to the players, guys, one more shot. Because they did get to the conference finals last year, Eastern Conference Finals, lost to Florida, and they won the Cup. So why are you already sounding like you want to blow this team up? I think they're still a really good team, but if they're not together in the locker room, Sammy, they won't be a force on the ice, and that's what happened last night.
Yeah. We've got some questions from the listeners right now. We're taking questions. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Chico Resch. Max, and I don't know where you sit for the games, last night at MSG, but he wanted to ask, if you sat near them and could you hear the tone of the other Rangers announcers while you were broadcasting? You know how sometimes you have the radio people.
Oh, yeah, no.
Row? No?
No, but Sam, as you know, you are not the same on this podcast, and neither am I. We get fired up, and so we put on this whatever. Mm-hmm. So during the game, the Rangers announcers would have put that forth, but I talked to them between periods, mm-hmm. and they were down too. I mean, they knew. Like when someone says to me, "Chico, have a good game tonight," I'll tell you what. If those Devils play well, we score some goals and there's excitement, I will have a good game. If they are flat and they got nothing going, like St. Louis game was really tough when we lost 3-0. So, no, the Ranger announcers, they're down, they're disappointed, and I think like everybody associated with the Rangers, I don't know what you think, Sammy, and the listeners, but to me it's a little shocking that after what they did last year, and I thought, okay, this year it's their last hurrah. Maybe they're not going to start off great because they got, it's the playoffs that count. But I didn't see them just wallowing in everything bad that can happen to a hockey team. I mean, they are a mess. They know it. And quite honestly, Sam, I don't know what the alternative is. I don't think they're going to change the coach yet. I don't think it's Peter's fault. I don't think they're going to make a trade. If they made a trade like we talked about, that would be a panic move. No, everybody was down. Just so you guys know, the fans, like I said, you got to have some compassion. And I kind of felt sad for the fans because they have nothing to cheer about. And by the middle of the third period, it was less than half. And by the last 5 minutes, maybe a third was left. So the announcers, like everybody else associated with the Rangers, were very down and depressed.
You know who else was chiming in yesterday? The great Stan Fischler on Twitter. I don't know if you read his tweet.
No.
I was laughing so hard when I read this morning. He says, the at NY Rangers' first mistake last night was starting its backup goalie, hashtag Igor Shesterkin, versus a very good team like at NJ Devils. The second error was leaving him in. As a result, again, this is like Stan Fischler-isms. Piggy Iggy may have lost a few bargaining power pennies, maybe down now to 8.5 million max. Markstrom equals aces. Just
Well, first of all, we all love Stan, and he'll always take the contrary side. I remember when I was doing TV with Doc years ago, and Marty Brodeur and Mike Dunham was there, right? Mike Dunham was with us, and Marty was playing a lot of games, and we were winning. But he'd always say, we got to start Dunham. And a couple times he said it on the air, right? And I'm thinking, Stan, he's just trying to get a reaction, okay? So then one night he asked if he could interview Marty Brodeur because he played a good game after the game. And Marty says, nah, tell Stan, interview Dunham as a joke, right? And that's why Stan is always going to take the contrary side. But I will just say this about Shesterkin. Between you and I, Maddie, Sammy, I wouldn't give him. I don't know if I'd give him 10. Like, he's a good goalie. Don't get me wrong. There's no great goalies out there. Vasilevsky's struggling. He hasn't been able to do much. Hellebuck, he's done really well in the regular season, but Winnipeg goes out in the first round. My point is, I would have said to him, look, you want 12 or 13,000? Okay, we will let you play this year out. If you can take us to the promised land or close to it or whatever, we'll pay you that. But I am not giving it to you as a guarantee up front. I wouldn't do it. I think, Sam, hunger for a hockey player or any athlete is huge. And there's two hungers a player has. One, get that big carrot with that millions of dollars on it, right? That's one. And the second is getting your name etched on the Stanley Cup. And so those hungers are real. And I would just say, Igor, and I don't even know if it's Igor. Remember this about agents. If you and I are agents, Sam, and you got 5 players that are up for contract and I have 5, and I want more players to come to me than you, well, I'm going to try to get my players like some contracts where someone said, oh, can you believe what Resch got so-and-so or Sammy got so-and-so? So there's competition between the agents, and sometimes they're the ones who throw these figures out. And maybe they're players saying, well, okay, you're my representative. If you think that's the right way to go, I'll go along with it. But I mean, if Igor Shesterkin is thinking, I'm going to prove myself, I'm going to be respected as a goalie because I'm going to be making 12 or 13,000. I don't know if I want him. I want him to know he's good because of himself. And the contract, like the richest contract, so what? I don't know if he's going to be better than Markstrom this year. 2 years ago we beat him. And he played okay, but he couldn't get them through the hump, and we won 4-3 in the game. So anyway, I just think Shesterkin is a distraction, and he's got to somehow get it together because that team. I talked to the announcers, and I said, so, like tonight, is this the way you guys have been playing? And they said, yeah. I said, well, how did you go on that early streak? Remember early on, Sammy, they were like, they had 5 wins. He said, oh, the goalies were carrying us. And I didn't watch the Rangers, so I didn't know. But they all said, no, it was the goalies. So now the goalies aren't playing that well, and now we see the results.
Wow. Yeah, with Shesterkin, the agents, they always play that game. But at the end of the day, it's all about the salary cap. And there's only so many funds that you can, allot to, a goaltender. It should be very interesting where, he goes and what direction the Rangers take. But, I don't think that their season is over. Like a lot of these fans, they, on online. They're all happy. Everybody's gung ho. If you're a Devils fan, right now you just beat the Rangers 5-1. I just think they're just going through this really bad period. But
Yeah.
you remember the Florida Panthers a couple of years ago. I mean, they barely made it into the playoffs, and
Yes.
somewhere from what I remember, it took Keith Kachuk radio interview to call out the team, and then maybe gave a little spark in March.
That actually it was Keith Kachuk's father up in Ottawa. Keith's dad
really?
played in the NHL.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was in Toronto, and he he really called them out. And you're right, they went on a roll after that.
Yeah, so it was actually Keith Kachuk's father?
Yes, yeah. I'm having a mental block. Kachuk, Keith. Yeah, wasn't it Keith? Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah. Matthew's dad, Keith.
Yeah.
It was Keith.
Yeah, yep.
His dad. Yeah. Keith.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I just want to make sure.
Yes.
We got that right.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, I mean, sometimes these things happen, but they started to hold each other accountable. They started playing for each other. I mean, the Rangers to me are still a dangerous team. What's kind of strange, it's like when I think of the New York Rangers, I would think Jacob Trouba will be lurking somewhere and doing something, and he was non-existent last night. He wasn't.
No, and I don't know. They have to get it together as a team. But for us, Sam, we'll talk about the Devils. Okay, like I said, 7 new players. If you count Pesce, Kovacevic, and they played over 20 minutes, and then you got Brendan Dillon, who really is helping Dougie Hamilton, who was out all last year. You got Luke Hughes being a completely different player. So we've got 7 new guys, and I'm counting Dougie Hamilton because he was out last year. But we got Nason punching in goals. We got Paul Cotter. We've got Thomas Tatar back, who's I'm just saying, where are we weak? We're not good because, we're just playing well. We all of a sudden, it came out of the air. No. Tommy Fitzgerald has picked, with his scouts, they've picked the right guys. They haven't picked superstars. But I'm thinking of Luke Hughes, and I talk to Luke a lot, and I always tell him, Luke, what's the number one job of a defenseman? He said, I know, Chico, protect the goalie. I said, if you do that first, the points will come. And what you don't want, and I played with good defensemen, even Denny Potvin, who finally became a pretty darn good defenseman. I said to Luke, Luke, if, 10 years from now they say, that Luke, he was a really good offensive player, but he didn't know how to play defense, you're not going to be happy. That's not what the reputation you want. So his commitment to defense right now. But I was thinking last night, what a smart move by Tommy Fitzgerald to say, okay, what type of player who's available can help Luke Hughes the most? Brett Pesce. It was brilliant. And they love playing together, and Luke loves this guy. And so my point is, our forward lines, we got 5 last night. We could have had more. We're not a guarantee to win the cup. We're guaranteed to be in the playoffs, Sammy, and do something. But as you said earlier, things have to fall into place. But what I'm saying to the Devils fans, don't think they can play 60 minutes. I know you even said, okay, last night, there were some things. Forget that. I would sooner have had 4 things go wrong and we win than everything went right and we lost. And there's no team that's so good. They're not playing the American League teams. They're the other NHL teams that have really good players. And as JP Parisi said to me, you know what's tough about winning all the time in this NHL? The other team wants to win too. So I don't care how the game unfolds. I mean, I do to a point. I want it to be exciting, and they have to overcome something. But the bottom line is, they found a way to win. I think it was Chris Kreider was saying last night, and you hear this all the time, Sam. He said, "Yeah, we're finding ways to lose," which is an old cliche, and but I want our team, which they're doing, they're finding ways to win. So I don't care if the game's not like just rock solid top to bottom. I don't care. But I want at a critical time someone to step up and be a difference maker, whether it's the goalie or goal scorer or the defenseman. That's what the sports is about. And we have that kind of team this year.
Yeah, I got a question from John from JCB Architectural. He wants to ask you, Chico, does this team remind of any similar Devils teams in the past? This year's New Jersey Devils?
Yeah, I think it's a bit more like the '95 team, and why I say that won the cup. I mean, it's obviously different, but they had Niedermayer. But Sammy, in the room, I've been there. You have to not just say the right things to the press. Yeah, no, I believe in each other. Yeah, no, we're a tight knit group. Okay, that all sounds fine, and everybody's going to say that. But I'm sitting in the room and I'm looking across at a player and thinking, you know what? That guy covered my butt the last game when I got caught out of position, or that goalie made the big save. And then you win a game like last night, and they're not doing somersaults in the room like they might have a couple of years ago when they were younger. They're saying, good job, boys. Yeah, no, we can do better. You've read some of them. But you know what? We played really good. Like, we were together blocking shots. What I'm saying, Sam, is this team, you always hear people say it, but this team truly does believe in each other. And the reason is because if I said to you, Sam, you're the other team's coach, whoever it'll be, okay? What are you going to tell your team on where you're going to attack? Like, let's see, the Devils are weak in goal, so let's get a lot of shots. Oh, no, they're not. Okay, well, their defense. You can really beat them on the outside, or you can create 2-on-1s or break. Well, no, they're pretty good. And their forward lines, well, they're not very fast, so we can no. And now the other thing is, like Coach said, he wanted to establish this year, and was smart by Sheldon. We knew we'd be pretty good off the rush. But as you know, Sam, especially in the playoffs, it's not scoring off the rush. It's getting it in, forechecking, grinding, out-muscling a guy for the puck, and scoring off those types of plays. And that's what Sheldon Keefe was preaching all this training camp. He's saying it to us. We have to be better on our forecheck. And we are. And the last thing is, Sam, I believe you have to be ferocious in front of your own net. They can't touch your goalie, which players have responded to if one of the goalies gets jabbed at after the whistle. You can't in hockey now, it's not like when Kenny Danico and Scott Stevens could come late and just push, drive someone into next week. You can't do that. You got to get position. You hear the coach say inside position, meaning if you think of the crease, you've got to be the inside of the guy trying to get to the net. If he gets there first, like against St. Louis, we lost, and Luke, I think he learned a lesson. Luke came out of the right corner, if you're looking at the Devil's net, and whoever tipped that third puck in, he was ahead of Luke, meaning he had the inside position, and Luke he could have hooked him, would have got a penalty. But if Luke had been in front of him first, would have never happened. So I'm just saying, as you fans are watching the game, watch the positioning by our defenseman in front of the net. And like Siegenthaler, I was talking to him on the plane the other night. I mean, they are so excited because they really believe in the spring. I don't know. In June, their name could be etched on the Stanley Cup. And that's what every single player who has any kind of heart and values what he's doing as a hockey player, that's what they want. And this team, I truly believe has that. But Sammy, as you know, in the playoffs, there's going to be still some breaks. Injuries are going to be a big factor. Let's hope we can stay healthy. But right now, I got to tell you, this Devils team is as good as any, when I say good, from top to bottom, solid, no holes, no gaps, as any team in the National Hockey League. But, it still has to get done for another, 60-some games and in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly getting it done in front of the goaltender. I mean, they're blocking shots. They're blocking shots. Like, on Devils After Dark, after the game, we do this post game. Scotty reads the stats. Last season, they were out hit. They didn't block as many shots as the opposing team. Now we've seen like a complete contrast difference that when you read the stats at the end of the game, it's like Devils had 24 blocked shots to 13, the opposing team, or the hits. The hits are coming. Paul Cotter is hitting, and Stefan Nason. I mean, is he he's winning the battles up front on both ends of the ice?
Well, exactly. And remember, again, Sam, I want to remind you and everybody else: don't compare last year's team at all to this year's team. We had three new players, and Dougie Hamilton, I've never seen him so intense. And you do get caught up in what the rest of the team's doing. So I talked to Stefan Nason, and this was earlier in the year. He made a gorgeous on his he's a right hand on his backhand. He makes a saucer pass over the defender's stick to, I don't know, it might have been Paul Cotter. He banged it home. I said, what a play. He says, yeah. He says, and you know why? I got sent to the minor leagues. People forget he and Jack Drury, who's now the fourth line center for Carolina, they got sent to the minors to Chicago. And people liked Stefan Nason before when he was here, but he's not the same player. Don't even pretend that he's the same player. But he said, I went down there in the AHL minor leagues, and I worked because you got a lot of time. He's married. He's got time to stay out an hour or two. He says, I worked on that backhand saucer pass. And, or if you're going to do a toe drag, like Luke's toe drag is one of the best in the National Hockey League because he can pull the puck in so close to him and not lose it. I mean, that's what a toe drag is. But I'm saying, Stefan Nason, don't even pretend that it's the Stefan Nason we had, previously. He's just got a world of confidence, but he has confidence because, Sammy, no, I cannot give you confidence and you can't give me confidence, and the coach can't give a player confidence. He can support him and encourage him. You know how you get confidence? Through yourself. I did it. I have confidence, not somebody else. And I say this to parents. Don't think you got to tell your son, oh yeah, you're really good. I'm saying, no, enough. Encourage, say, hey, you can do it, but you got to work hard. You got to acquire confidence yourself. It's not given to you. And that's what I'm seeing about this team. The confidence isn't coming from the coach saying the right things or Nico Hischier's a great captain. It's not because they have these flowery things they're saying, and that's what you'll hear a lot. No, they have confidence because they've all done it, and they're hungry to do it more often.
Well, yeah, and you could tell. I mean, just the demeanor, everything. They're just each game. They're just improving, and when they face adversity, you're not going to have a perfect game every game. Like Markstrom the other night, was just battling.
Yes.
But they find ways to win. That's the cliche, but it's just once their backs are to the wall and just digging deep, they seem to be this quiet confidence. Like, okay, there's still time in the game. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Or the other, or when was it Kreider that scored last night? I forgot who scored.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
scored.
Kreider.
That was it. They went back on track. Now it's 4-1. Because you can easily swing the momentum in Madison Square Garden once you get the crowd going. Say if the Rangers scored another goal and it's 4-2, even if the Rangers did, I think the Devils would have been like, okay, enough's enough. Let's just get back on track. We still have the 2-goal lead. Let's take care of business. There just doesn't seem any kind of panic this year with this team.
No, there is no panic. And you know what? That slogan, there's no quit in New York? There's no quit in New Jersey. We
Yeah.
should steal that logo. But if they came up with it, they can keep it. But it's true. There's no quit, and nobody wants to be. Do you know? Like Sheldon Keefe was telling us, here's a great problem to have. Our penalty killing has been terrific, but he says so. Four people, and then maybe 8 people total. If you went with 4 and then you switch those 4 and the other 4 kill the second half, right? That's 8 players. But there's like 12 players that could and want to be on the penalty kill. He says, my biggest problem is, how do I put everybody out on the power play? Timo Meyer's not even on the power play. Luke Hughes, not on the power. My point is, and when you have bench strength, guys sitting on the bench thinking, I could be doing that, it's another world. And that's what the Devils have. And you got to really, really earn it. And they're just having a ball. But there is no quit. And why? And here's another thing. Okay, we've been shut out 4 times, right? Mm-hmm. And Maddie and I were looking it up. Okay, after getting shut out, Sam, there was twice or 3 times we went on a 3-game winning streak. The other time, we went on a 2-game winning streak. Now, we got shut out by St. Louis. Now, we've beaten the Rangers. Let's see how many we win. That's what you're talking about. It's not that you got shut out. It's not that you got knocked down. But what did you do when you got up? Well, you don't quit. You win more games. So you get shut out, not good. But when you respond with a 3 or 4 game winning streak after getting shut out, that's the kind of team I want to be around and be on, because they know the no quit scenario that you're talking about.
Yeah, especially after Washington, so close, losing 6-5 on Saturday. Or was it 5-4?
Oh, yeah.
So
no, you're right. It was 6-5. Yeah.
And then thinking, okay, you've got Sunday rest. Monday, you go into Madison Square Garden. You have one job to do. The team seems to be playing better on the road.
Yes. But remember, let's just go over the Washington. Okay. So I felt bad. Like, I knew something happened. So we're coming back, and we're going to do well. Puck goes around the boards, and Jake goes out. But right around the board, Sammy, is the most snow. The thing slowed down, but he can't go outside the trapezoid to get it. He's got to wait. But as he's waiting, Protas sticks his stick in and pokes it about that far past his stick. And then Protas reaches through. He passes it out front, and poor Jake Allen is behind the net, and it's an easy goal. And he really, blamed himself and beat himself up. But here's a story. It's 6-5. Sam, I went and I measured one of my old goalie sticks. It is exactly an inch, maybe an inch and an eighth, but let's just say an inch. We would have tied that game when Jack Hughes shot that puck. I'm thinking, I'm watching from the booth. We're tied. We're going to tie. It hit the shaft of the stick of the goalie. The goalie was down. And I'm sure Jack saw the same thing. How didn't that go in? Then you see the replay. Oh, it hit that 1 inch. 1 inch. He had 1.5 feet on the left side, 1.5 feet on the right side, but it hit that stick, 1 inch stick. So my point is, it was an extenuating, circumstantial game, and everything went wrong. But you know what, Sammy? In the playoffs, we're not going to beat every team 4-0, 4-0, 4-0. You're going to have things go against you. You're going to lose games, but bounce back. Are you resilient? Can you bounce back? And that's what I like about this team. Right now, it's not there yet, but it's building all these internal personality traits, character traits that will serve them well as we get down into the stretch and into the playoffs.
Chico, one thing that I've noticed lately, Luke Hughes, the way he's skating recently, it's very Niedermayer-esque. Just the stride, just demeanor, everything. He seems to have recovered from this shoulder injury in the off
Yeah.
season.
We talked about it, Sammy. Like, he's the best skate. Like, okay, we say north and south is up and down the ice, right? East and west is across, okay? But he is the best north south power fast skater of the three Hugheses. Jack can go laterally, and Quinn has some of that, right? But straight up and down, I mean, this guy's tall. Like, he's over 6 feet. And Ellen, his mother, who's a good friend of mine, said, well, yeah, he was the youngest. And, the other boys would always make him play defense. They want to be forward or they want to be scorers. But no. And what I like about him, he'll say to you, Sam, if you had him on, he'd say, no, I'm playing really good. You don't have a goal. Yeah, no, but I'm playing really good. I'm getting chances. I'm doing a good job. It sounds like he's bragging, but he's not. He's just saying, I am. I haven't scored, but I will, and he almost got one last night. But what I like about him, and Jack's the same way. Some people don't like interviewing Jack because Jack is not going to, get into the discussion. Like last night when someone said Jack said you were trying to make him look bad. I mean, his response, I don't even know what that means. What is that? See you later. Like, he's not going to, they're not interested in that stuff. It's just, if you tell them the truth, they will respond truthfully. But they're not in, and I'm not saying right or wrong, I'm just saying they're not into, like I am or you are, into all the stuff going around and discussing this and that. No, but Luke Hughes, when he comes back on say gets caught up the ice, and the guy's on the wing, Sammy, he will go over and smother that guy. That guy, just exactly what you said. That's a great comparison, Niedermeyer-esque. It's over. Like, you don't even question that he's going to take that guy out and take the puck, and so
his skating is like art. His skating is like art, like Niedermeyer. It's so fluid right now, and I think he's getting better and better since last year with his skating. It's so smooth, and when he's skating fast, it's like his motor's not even hot. Like it's he's skating fast, and his legs aren't moving, but somehow he's going fast down the ice. Like you said, with the north-south, we have a lot of questions, Chico. Some of them.
Okay, I'll answer shorter now. You go ahead, Sam.
Yeah. So, because Max has some conspiracy theories, but he's like, what are your thoughts about the reffing as soon as the Devils got the number one power play?
Oh, I don't know. It just seems we've had some terrible calls going both ways. The one where they didn't call a trip on Hischier, and the referee said Hischier had stepped on his stick. The guy's stick, Sam, was a foot and a half off the ice. He couldn't have stepped on his stick. The stick went, but no, of course he had to back it up. And even last night, and I'm watching now, I watched the playoffs. I don't want it to be a free-for-all. I don't want players like deliberately tripping. But I'm just so afraid they get into this wacky, just call and just touch them and a penalty. Like if I hit somebody's stick who's got the puck, that's not a penalty. That's not slashing. Sometimes you see it. If I hit his gloves, slashing. But the referees are under a lot of pressure. And you know why, Sammy? Because of gambling.
Yes.
I've talked to off-ice officials. They say gambling has changed everything. They travel together now, and they leave the rink together. Okay, like you can bet on who's going to get the first goal. Well, I just want to say, so we're playing St. Louis. They got the first goal, but it should have been a penalty, right? But you can bet on who gets the first goal, and I think that poor referee felt like you decided who got the first goal by calling that penalty, and they just said it's like shots. Maddie and I do the shots. End of the period, let's say the board shows 15-12. We never take that to the bank because the off-ice officials tell me, Sam, Big Brother's watching. And in between periods, they break down every play, and you watch how often the shots change. Because that's another thing you can bet on. Shots. And that's not good. I am telling you, Sam, I am against gambling in sports. And they said they'd never do it. The NFL said it, NHL. But you know what? I don't have a dollar with me. But that's why it changed. It's a multi-million-dollar business. And I think it hurts the game. But so I'm like your listener there. It seems like the referees, you just wonder, what are they calling some nights? But I don't think it's just that they don't like the Devils. I think they're just really too conscious of making a call that can decide a betting line. But it's not good. I don't like them calling it that close.
Yeah, I never thought of that perspective. I know that sports betting has changed how I look at officiating from a fan standpoint sometimes, like, because you're emotional, you're irrational, your team lost, and suddenly you got to blame somebody. It's just a natural way of thinking as a fan. Jay Snow is asking, why do the Devils struggle with turnovers so much and struggle at times 5-on-5?
Well, actually, Jason, they don't. They don't struggle any more than every other team. They caused a lot of turnovers. You know what I think? There again, the media, Sam. Mm-hmm. They start to nitpick, and I get it. If you realize how many bloggers are trying to be heard about a game covering the Devils, like they say, oh yeah, they really played well, but they gave up the first goal. I don't care. I don't care if they give up the first 2 goals, 3 games in a row, but they come back to win. Let's not focus on, but you're giving up the first goal. It doesn't matter. And you say, well, it's going to catch them. Maybe it will, but maybe they'll spin out of it. I just think I'm not a big analytics guy. I realize some of the analytics, aren't you? Okay. Some of it will tell you something after the game.
Yep.
But let's just say the analytics say, okay, we're playing so-and-so, and their right defense is weaker than their left. So let's get the puck in on their left side. So you're saying, okay, so if I'm a right winger and I got the puck over on the right side, I shouldn't try to go in the right wing. I should go all the way across to the left and shots. Well, let's see who took the shot. I'm telling you, if Alexander Ovechkin is alone in the slot, that's a little higher danger than if it's a 4th liner or a 3rd liner. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't identify the heart, and it doesn't really identify the skill of players. It's just this rote thing. So I'm saying we're going to turn the puck over. It's like I was saying. Was it Jason that had the question?
Jay Snow.
Oh, Jay. Remember, the other team has really good players. You know what? The other team's salary cap is like $80 million. They've got really good players too, and the Devils aren't robots, and they're going to make some turnovers. But when you turn it over, what has to happen? You need someone to back you up. That's why we're talking about Luke Hughes. Luke Hughes is playing way better, yes. But you know why? Because subconsciously, he's saying, I got Brett Pesce over there, and that guy has one of the best sticks in the National Hockey League. He will go down, he'll block a shot. He has confidence now to do some of the things he wants to do offensively because Brett Pesce was backing him up. Last year, with all due respect to all of our defensemen, we didn't have that. So there's reasons why, but the turnovers, they're going to cost you a few games. Remember this. Never forget this, folks. Florida's ahead 3-0 in the finals. Oh, they're going to win 4-0. No, they were lucky to win 4-3. So, but does it matter if they won 4-0 or 4-3? They get their name on the cup. Do you know what I mean, Sam? We can get a little too anal about what the good things not happening, but let's celebrate how we can bend but not break, our resiliency, our ability to never give up, to come back, come from behind. You know what I mean? Let's celebrate that good stuff.
You know what? We had this conversation with Ken Danico in Tampa, and we have this inside joke. It started on this podcast because I've never been an analytics guy, and we have this term called beefalytics. And the beeflytics, and I've talked to you about this in the past, that beeflytics, because it's my belief, and this is where it stemmed from, like back in 1980, right? Who would ever have thought that Team USA would beat the Soviets, right?
No.
On paper, should have never happened, but it did.
No.
And why did it happen, right? And there are certain elements, and I think where the analytics discount is the human element of the game. And there's no way to really quantify it. We were talking about with Dano that if there's a way we can take this beeflytics concept and kind of quantify kind of like certain things about players, like leadership or effort, or the way they are in the locker room, the glue, like how Danico was, with that team. I mean, Danico, if you look at his stats and you look at the analytics, there wasn't analytics like there is today, but if you were to look at it, but somehow he has his jersey retired at the Prudential Center. There's a reason for that, because he was a big part of those.
We just said,
yeah.
Sammy, how do you measure your heart? How do you measure my heart or any of our listeners? That's what. No, don't get me wrong. When the game's over, the GM or somebody might say, let's see the analytics. Well, okay, they had 25 turnovers. Last game we only had 15. Okay, well, we do want to reduce it from 25. So you could kind of do that, and it after the fact. But like you were saying, blocking shots. Did analytics tell you that I remember Pesci's blocked some incredible shots, dangerous plays, but not just him. Could analytics tell you that before the game? No, but they will afterwards. And so I'm just saying there's a place for analytics, but what happens, Sam, in baseball, where baseball is a whole different game, and you know what I mean, is where, analytics has a little more value there. I get that. But in hockey, the speed, the bounces of the puck, the crazy referee calls or not calls, or, we talked about the inches of hitting the post or hitting the stick. And, it doesn't have the bearing. But you know what it does do? For people who don't really know the game, they can go to analytics and try to make those analytics back up what they want to say. I get it, but it's not impressing hockey people that know the game, because we just talked about it. You've seen it, Kenny Danico. And one of the biggest upsets, you're talking about the Russians. And I was in Minnesota at the time, but it's 1995, and I know it was a shortened season. Detroit, Scotty Bowman, great team. Like, I'm thinking, I hope they don't beat the Devils like 4-0. I hope it's at least 4-2 in games. What did the Devils do? They beat them 4-0. You talk about an incredible whatever happened there. That was pretty amazing. If we remember back, and you go do your homework on how favorite the Red Wings were, and yet it was the Devils who dominated. And Nieder scored that great goal off the backboards and scored the goal. But
So, I mean, it was so lopsided. I mean, the ESPN broadcast and the Fox broadcast, I remember it was David versus Goliath, that series, because, I mean, they had Fedorov, Yzerman in their primes. I think, was Keith Primo on that team? I don't remember.
I think he could have been Vernon. And they had Nicholas Lidstrom.
Yeah. He
was young. They had a great team.
Yeah, Konstantinov, Fetisov, like all these great players. And Mike Vernon, and was Chris Osgood the backup then? I don't remember.
Know. He might have been. But they were stacked, and they had those tough guys, Probert. I mean, they had toughness.
Dino Ciccarelli. Remember Dino Ciccarelli? Yeah, I mean, these were tough guys, and that 95 team just, they figured it out. They absolutely. I mean, the Flyers was a stacked team. People forgot about the Lindros, the Legion of Doom, LeClaire and Renberg, and they had a great and Ron Hextall was in net. That was a tough team to beat as well. One
Yeah, but don't you
last.
love, Sammy? Just excuse me for interrupting, but don't you love that? That's why we love, especially hockey. It can be any sport, but hockey more than any other sport. People say, "Well, what do you think tonight?" Honestly, Sam, I don't know. I said last night, "Well, what do you think with the Ranger game?" I said, "I don't know. The only thing I know, Devils are going to play hard." That's all I knew. I didn't know if they would score. You might hit the post, you might miss it, but you know what I mean. That's what I love about hockey. You cannot pinpoint what is going to happen before the game, and that's why we love to watch it, because it's what's going to happen tonight.
Yeah. All right, two more questions. Wants to know about the sometimes the Devils have slow starts and winning at home woes. Why are they happening? Is there any way to fix that?
You see, that's a good question, but unless I could get a screwdriver and take off the top of someone's head and look down in there, well, why are they doing it? They're not trying to do that. You know, the game against St. Louis, referee missed a call. You might have a quick breakdown. Like, why did the Rangers? Okay, if you want to just look at something, folks, look at at Jesper Bratt's first goal. Okay, like you wonder how did Panarin go over, and I don't know who the defenseman was. Why did they go and do what they did to give Bratt a breakaway? So Bratt's going down. He looks over, and I didn't realize this. This is where I knew Shesterkin was kind of out to lunch. He looked over, and I think it was Andre Miller was all the way over covering, which a goalie says, give me the shot, you take the pass. There was no chance of the pass. But, and Jesper said it after the game, he said, I think Shesterkin, because, see, he's going down, and he looked over, Sammy. That's all you have to do. You look over, and then the goalie goes, oh, no, he sees that guy over there. And then Shesterkin moved a little bit off the short side. Wham! He shot it in. So you could say, well, why did the Rangers break down like that? Why did Jesper Bratt do what he did? These aren't robots, and slow starts don't bother me. Now, if we lost 6 games in a row, and we were getting outscored like 1-2 nothing every game in the first 10 minutes, I'd say we got a problem. But there's cycles, right? As you know, in hockey, there's cycles. The players aren't robots, and you can't just talk about it. You know, sometimes the other team just makes a really good play too, and you get beat. So,
yeah.
But I mean, it's frustrating because as fans, we want to see the Devils play 60 minutes from start to finish, dominate the whole game. Well, actually, much like they did last night. Right, Sammy? But that's not going to happen most nights.
Yeah, one more question, and this is always a fan question. Do you foresee Quinn Hughes getting to free agency in the future and becoming a Devil to play with his brothers?
No. And it's Quinn's fault. You know why? Because Quinn's so good out there in Vancouver. They're never gonna. I mean, maybe if like remember Scott Niedermayer? How old was Scotty when he went to Anaheim? He was in his 30s, right?
31, 32, because that was the age of unrestricted free agent back in those days.
Okay.
It was that 31.
Okay, I could see Quinn sometime after 30 maybe saying to Vancouver, hey, I want to go play with my two brothers. Yeah, but it's not going to happen soon because he's such a mainstay of the Canucks. And the other thing is, don't believe fans that Tommy Fitzgerald's going to make a trade at this time of the year. Oh, yeah, if somebody came and said, we'll give you this really good player and you give us your third or fourth liner. Oh, he'd do it. But that GM must want to get fired. My point is, there aren't bona fide players that can help us right now. Now, it's interesting. I don't know if we're going to get them, and then we'll just finish up with this, Sammy. But, okay, now it's coming trading deadline, right? After the trading deadline, then the salary cap doesn't count, okay? So, my niece, she lives in Minnesota. Her husband is a coach, coached the Wild assistant. Now he's coaching Iowa Wild. They were at a game the other day, And Billy Guerin, remember, he was with Pittsburgh, and fans were saying, you know what? I think we're going to get Sidney Crosby. We're going to make a trade for Sidney Crosby. And I thought, not yet, but at the trading deadline, that would be something. If someone, Sammy, if you want to start the rumor, there could be some truth that if Sidney, but they'll have to ask Sidney. Sidney is like Mario Lemieux. It's like, I mean, even though I get it, it was kind of hard for me when Scotty Niedermayer left. You know, I wanted him to finish a Devil, but it was a different time. Times had changed, you know. But so I don't know if Sidney Crosby wants to wear another uniform, but they'll ask him first. But if he says, "Yeah, I would go there," then maybe, because Billy Guerin will try, and Sidney wants to win, and I don't think. I mean, the Penguins will not make the playoffs this year. They will not.
Yeah.
So anyway, it'll be interesting, Sam.
It'll be very, very interesting. Well, Chico, thank you for making the time here on the Let's Go Devils podcast, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, and you know, I just hope everybody gets involved like they are with your show, Sam. I want fans to be involved. Here's what I'm saying: involved and informed. Don't just be a radical, no-brain fan. You can, but understand a little bit of the finer points. And as you know, Sammy, you'll enjoy the game more.
Yep.
You will. And so we'll see you sometime, Sam, and I wish the best to all of your listeners. It's always good what you've done. How many years has it been, Sam?
We're in our 8th season, and we're approaching 1 million downloads.
Wow.
It's going to happen sometime this season.
Sam, that jersey you got on, we're going to retire that jersey for you. Because that's how good you've been.
Thank you.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, listeners. See ya.
Thank you, Chico. That is Chico Resch, Devils Hockey Network, good friend of the podcast. Seeing everybody commenting. Wow. We're at the hour and 20-minute mark. But, yes, that Chico Resch, that was an amazing interview. Thank you. Whistler says, Chico, to the Ring of Honor. That should be done, says Tom as well. And thank you for all your questions, comments. But getting back, final thoughts. Chico Resch said it best. It's really like not how you start the game. It's how you finish. It's the adversity. We take all these analytics. We overanalyze. A lot of bloggers do. I believe that. I'm not a big analytics fan, but I do respect it. But this is why we love hockey. Because even when the odds say that you can't win a game, never discount the human element and great teamwork. And, yeah. Also, back to the Steve Valiquette. I don't know what you're talking about. Still haven't figured it out. Again, not going to rationalize the irrational. I think he was a little emotional that night, in all fairness. Wanting his team to win, but nope, the Rangers get nothing. They lose. Good day, sir. Thank you to all those tuning in. The Insane Pollock says, the longest Woo report ever. Brooke Amanda says, I love analytics. I'm so data-driven. I don't know. You know what? I like looking at data as well, but I always take it with a grain of salt at times. Numbers are numbers. That's what they are. Alrighty. Thank you to all those tuning in. Dropping the podcast at midnight. I hope you have a long commute, because this is going to be a good one. Thank you to Chico Resch. Thank you to all you fans. Till next time, this is the Woo Report. Let's go Devils.